Welcome to the Calm Unknown, a calm space story for night listening, deep thinking, and peaceful sleep. If this quiet journey helps you relax, consider subscribing for more calm stories from the unknown. Now let your thoughts slow down and drift gently into the mystery. There is a silence in history that few notice. It's not the silence of missing voices or the fading echoes of ancient languages. It is the silence of what was never written down. A gap so vast it stretches not over years or centuries, but across the entire shape of memory itself. We're told that history began around 5,000 years ago. That when Sumerian scribes first pressed wedges into clay tablets, the past became the past. Before that, it's all labeled prehistory, as if nothing worthy of memory had happened, as if civilization bloomed from a dry and empty plain, full-formed, like a flower from a stone. But history, real history, isn't a straight road paved with dates. It's a maze of fire-lit rooms, half-burned scrolls, and stories too strange to make the syllabus. So why does our collective memory begin in Mesopotamia? Why is 3000 BCE treated as a kind of Genesis? And perhaps more importantly, what had to be forgotten for that story to make sense? The first thing to understand is this: history, as we inherit it, is not a record. It's a decision. It is the outcome of choices: what to preserve, what to discard, what to canonize, and what to burn. Every empire rewrites the past to justify its present. Every ruling class carves its face into stone and smashes the statues of those who came before. We do not live in the world of all that happened. We live in the story that was allowed to survive. And that story, it seems, has been heavily edited. The tale begins with Sumer, with wedge-shaped letters and kings who ruled under the gaze of the stars. Then Egypt, with its god-kings and pyramids. Then the great walls of Babylon and the precision of the Harappan grid. All neat, all structured, all fitting nicely into the timeline we're taught to trust. But scattered throughout these civilizations are clues that hint at something far older. Take the Sumerian king list, an official document etched in cuneiform, listing monarchs and their reigns. At first, it reads like any chronicle, but as the eye moves down, a strange pattern emerges. Kings who ruled for decades, then centuries, then thousands of years. One name is said to have reigned for 200 years, another for 800. And then, just like that, the timeline contracts, the floods come, and time resets. Mainstream scholars say these numbers are symbolic, mythological. They remind us that ancient people liked exaggeration. But what if the exaggeration isn't the numbers, but the assumption that nothing came before? Ancient Egyptian king lists do something similar. They speak of the Zep Tepi, the first time, when gods walked among men, and knowledge descended from the stars, not metaphorically, but with places, rituals, and names. Even the priests of Heliopolis, when questioned by Greek historians, spoke of tens of thousands of years of dynasties, long before the first pyramid was ever raised. And then, there is the calendar. The Mayans did not measure time in centuries. They measured it in epochs. Their long count calendar begins not in 3000 BCE, but in 3114 BCE. And even that was just one cycle among many. Their cosmology spoke of previous worlds, each destroyed, each reborn. If history only begins with writing, then every civilization that didn't write, or whose records were lost, is treated as irrelevant. But absence of writing does not mean absence of memory. It simply means the memory took another form. So who gets to decide where the past begins? Writing is preservation, but it's also control. What's written can be edited, what's oral can be forgotten, and what's forbidden can be destroyed. Religious texts, too, hint at strange depths. The Old Testament speaks of antediluvian patriarchs who lived for centuries: Adam, Seth, Methuselah, whose lifespans echo those found in Mesopotamian tablets. The Book of Enoch, once revered and then banned, describes watchers from the heavens teaching forbidden knowledge to humans. A story echoed by the Anunnaki of Sumer, the Apkallu sages, and the sons of the gods in many other traditions. Over and over again, we hear the same whisper. There was a time before this time, a memory before the memory. But it's hard to hear a whisper when history speaks in capital letters. So much of our historical foundation depends on a few core assumptions: that civilization equals cities, that technology equals machines, that culture equals writing. But what if a civilization rose before writing and fell before stone? What if we've only been shown the visible tip of something vast and buried? The further back we go, the less stable the timeline becomes. Archaeologists have no issue placing humans in Africa over 300,000 years ago. We know of cave paintings in Europe 40,000 years old, carved symbols in Blombos Cave 75,000 years old, and footprints that stretch even further into the haze. But we're told those were hunter-gatherers, nomads, scattered tribes with no cities, no systems. And yet, someone carved the stones of Göbekli Tepe with astronomical precision over 11,000 years ago. Someone moved the T-shaped pillars, weighing multiple tons, and buried the site with thousands of tons of backfill, as if to protect it. We only began building cities 5,000 years ago, but we were building temples 6,000 years before that. How? Why? And for whom? We call it a mystery. But maybe it's not the site that's mysterious. Maybe it's the story we're telling around it that refuses to stretch. The more we dig, the more we find timelines crumbling under their own weight, which raises the question, are we truly discovering the past? Or are we remembering it in fragments? If history is the torch we carry into the dark, then perhaps we should ask what and who is deciding where that light is allowed to shine. We inherit this narrative like a sacred scroll. But what if that scroll is incomplete? What if entire volumes were removed, not lost, but suppressed? Because to tell a different history is to give people a different identity. And identity, once expanded, cannot easily be controlled. So perhaps it was safer for the scribes, the kings, the priests, the professors, to start history at a place of certainty, at the point where writing made memory concrete, at the point where everything before could be labeled myth. And yet, the myths remain, and they don't sound like stories. They sound like warnings. They speak of floods, of fire, of fallen towers and vanished empires. They carry an unease, like the echo of something he once lived through, but can no longer name. So we draw a line in time, Before that line, ignorance. After that line, knowledge. But what if the real line is this? Before writing, memory was alive. After writing, memory was frozen. And in that freezing, something was lost. Not just facts, but feeling. The texture of a world built on rhythm, on sky patterns, on voices passed down in ceremony. A world we still carry in fragments. Rituals we don't understand, symbols we decorate with, dreams we can't explain. Maybe we haven't lost the story. Maybe we've just forgotten how to read it. And now, we begin to ask, if history only records what is written, what about everything that was built, carved, buried, or sung before the first word was ever pressed into clay? What lived before the scroll? What walked beneath the soil? What breathed before we learned to speak? To find that we must leave the libraries and step into the silence between ruins, because where history stops, something else begins. And in the next section, we follow the quiet trail of what was left behind, not in books, but in absence. History is not only told by what we find, but by what we choose to see. Archaeology, for all its science and discipline, is not immune to blindness. It is a lens, one that focuses with precision, but only on what it's pointed at. Everything outside the frame, no matter how vast or strange, disappears into shadow. And in that shadow, something waits. What we call archaeology often begins with a shovel, but it truly begins with a decision. Where to dig, what to keep, what to call important. These decisions shape the past we're allowed to know. Not all ruins are unearthed, not all artifacts are understood, and not all stories are told. We imagine archaeology as a grand revelation, lost cities rediscovered, dusty relics brought into the light. But just as often, it's an act of quiet forgetting. Not because of conspiracy, always, but because of context. Sometimes the context is missing. Sometimes it's ignored. Sometimes it's inconvenient. There are objects in museum basements right now, unlabeled, unexplained, because they don't fit the accepted timeline. Objects like the London hammer, found encased in ancient rock, or the metallic spheres of Klerksdorp, perfectly round, grooved, and unearthed from geological layers over 2 billion years old. Artifacts that seem to hum with an impossible age. Too advanced, too old, too strange. So we lock them in drawers. We file them under anomaly, and we move on. But anomalies have gravity. Enough of them begin to form a pattern, not of certainty, but of suggestion. A suggestion that the story we've written over the Earth's surface is only skin deep. Consider Çatalhöyük, an ancient city in modern-day Turkey, over 9,000 years old. No streets, houses built door to door with entry from rooftops, shrines buried inside homes, symbols of the goddess, bulls and leopards repeating like a forgotten liturgy. It wasn't a primitive village. It was a system. And yet, for decades, it was dismissed, too old, too complex, out of sequence. Then there's Jericho, its stone tower rising from the desert, dated to 10,000 years ago. That's before metal tools, before wheels, before most timelines even begin. And what about Derinkuyu, a vast underground city carved into volcanic stone, extending deep beneath Cappadocia? Tunnels wide enough for carts, air shafts, security doors, a space for thousands, built not as shelter, but as sanctuary. These are not isolated curiosities, they are contradictions. But contradictions don't disprove the story, they rewrite it. And the rewriting starts when we ask, why do so many discoveries lie in ruins? Not because of age, but neglect. Part of the answer lies in how evidence is dated. Carbon dating, the gold standard for organic materials, is powerful, but limited. It can't date stone. It can't date metal. It can only date the organic matter around an artifact. A hearth beside a statue. A bone beneath a tool. From this context, a date is inferred. But inference is not precision. If a tablet is found in a layer dated to 2000 BCE, we assume it's from 2000 BCE. But what if it was buried later? What if it was copied from something far older? The truth is, we date what we can, and we guess the rest. And when the guess doesn't match the timeline, we question the artifact, not the framework. This isn't fraud, it's human nature. We anchor ourselves to certainty, even if the sea is rising around us. Take the Baghdad battery, a clay jar, copper cylinder, and iron rod, believed to be over 2,000 years old. When discovered, it was treated as a curiosity. Could it have produced electricity? Electroplating? It was easier to laugh than to ask. Because a working battery before the industrial age doesn't just raise questions, it tears open the curtain. So we set it aside, call it a coincidence, a misinterpretation. We do this over and over. Artifacts that don't match expectations are reframed as ritualistic. If we don't understand a tool, we call it ceremonial. If we don't recognize a pattern, we call it abstract. But what if we're not confused by symbolism, but by sophistication? What if the builders weren't primitive? What if they weren't alone? We treat civilization as a straight ascent, from chaos to order, from savagery to science. But evidence keeps surfacing that suggests otherwise. Göbekli Tepe, with its T-shaped megaliths and celestial alignment, appears thousands of years before agriculture. The narrative says people were still hunting and gathering. Yet here, in the soft hills of southeastern Turkey, they carved pillars weighing tons, aligned them with the stars, and buried the entire site, deliberately, as if to preserve it. This isn't progress, it's a reboot, a memory sealed in stone. So what kind of world are we walking on? What secrets are sealed beneath the foundations of modern cities? What stories rest under deserts, beneath oceans, inside mountains? Many sites are never excavated because of politics, money, or ideology. In Egypt, certain areas are off-limits to independent researchers. In China, hundreds of ancient pyramids lie beneath farmland, unacknowledged, untouched, slowly being reclaimed by the soil. But even when we do dig, time doesn't always give up its secrets. Looting erases context. War destroys records. Climate buries ruins in sand or sea. And sometimes, destruction is intentional. Knowledge has always been a threat, which is why the greatest archaeological site might not be a buried city, but the gaps in our maps, the places we don't search, the questions we're told not to ask. Because asking means opening the door to uncertainty. And uncertainty is dangerous. It asks us to wonder, not just about objects, but about origins, not just about age, but about ancestry. So we are left with fragments, a hammer in stone, spheres in rock, batteries in jars, cities without names. Pieces that don't fit the puzzle because the puzzle itself was designed with missing pieces. We're not being asked to believe in lost worlds. We're being asked to notice the absence and to feel its shape, like an imprint in the dust where something once stood, like a whisper in a room that should be silent, because the earth doesn't forget. But we do. We build stories around what's convenient. We discard what's strange. We reward what fits. We forget what disturbs. And the result is a version of the past that feels polished, linear, complete. But it's not. It's curated. And in that curation, something sacred may have been buried. Not maliciously, not always, but inevitably, because systems preserve themselves. And when memory threatens the system, it is filed away under anomaly. But anomalies are clues, and together they form a trail, not to certainty, but to curiosity. And perhaps that's all we need, because from here, the path leads downward, not into fantasy, but into deep time, into strata where no scrolls remain, where stories are written in stone, and where the only witnesses are fossils and fire. We're about to descend further, beyond the ruins, into the Earth's deeper memory. Because if absence speaks, then what it says is this: there is more to remember. There was a time when the coastline was not where it is now, not just a few steps outward, not a few meters deeper, an entirely different world. A world where today's oceans were plains, valleys, forests, and wide open routes between lands we now believe were always separated. When people imagine the past, they picture ancient deserts, old temples, and faded stone cities. But the deepest past, the one most likely to change everything we think we know, may not be hidden in sand at all. It may be hidden underwater. Near the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 years ago, Earth warmed. Glaciers that had sat like frozen mountains began to melt. And as they melted, something quiet and unstoppable happened. The oceans rose, not a little, not gradually enough for comfort. Over time, sea levels surged more than 400 feet, swallowing coastlines across every continent. If humanity had built anything meaningful during that forgotten stretch, villages, ports, temples, roads, the sea would have taken it first. Not because of myth or mystery, but because of physics. Water always seeks the lowest ground, and human beings almost always settle near water. We're told civilization started in river valleys, the Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus, the Yellow River. It's a familiar story, repeated like a chant, but that story assumes the coastlines we see today are the same ones our ancestors saw. They weren't. The shoreline was once a moving thing, creeping inward year after year, generation after generation. And in that movement, entire regions were erased from the surface of the earth, not by war, not by fire, but by simple, patient drowning. One of those drowned lands is called the Sunda Shelf. Today, the islands of Indonesia, Sumatra, Java, Borneo, stand like scattered pieces of a broken map. But long ago, they were connected. Southeast Asia wasn't an archipelago. It was a massive landmass called Sundaland, rich with rivers and fertile plains, a place where humans lived for tens of thousands of years, a place that vanished beneath the rising sea, leaving behind only peaks and islands. Another lost world lies beneath the North Sea. Doggerland. It once connected Britain to mainland Europe, a vast landscape of forests and marshes filled with game and fish, home to human communities. Then the sea rose, and later a tsunami, possibly triggered by an underwater landslide, finished what melting ice began. Doggerland didn't collapse in a dramatic cinematic moment. It sank, quietly, completely, and with it went the evidence of thousands of years of life. And then there is Beringia, the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska. In the modern mind, it's treated like a simple migration route, one crossing, one direction, a footnote on the way to the Americas. But Beringia was not a narrow bridge. It was a huge region, wide enough to support plants, animals, and permanent communities. A corridor of movement, yes, but also a home, a world. And it too was swallowed. These submerged regions change the emotional weight of history. They suggest something obvious, yet rarely spoken aloud. We may not be missing a few scattered villages. We may be missing entire chapters of civilization. Because if people lived there, they didn't simply disappear. They moved. They fled inland. They carried tools, stories, symbols, rituals. They brought knowledge from coastlines that no longer exist, and when they arrived in new lands, their presence would have looked like a miracle. A sudden rise, a civilization appearing out of nowhere, which perhaps is exactly what our timelines describe. The troubling thing is how neatly the birth of civilization follows the flood line. Around 10,000 to 6,000 BCE, as sea levels stabilized, agriculture spread, cities began forming, monuments rose, and writing appeared. It looks like a beginning, but it may have been a restart, and if it was a restart, then the missing evidence might not be in deserts, where archaeologists love to dig. It might be under oceans, where the ruins are harder to reach, harder to date, harder to prove. Sometimes, in old maps, we catch hints of this. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513, shows coastlines with strange accuracy. It depicts parts of South America in ways that raised questions among researchers. Some have claimed it even shows Antarctica without ice, though that remains debated. Whether or not those claims are correct, the map carries a deeper mystery. It appears to be compiled from older sources, older charts, older memory. And it isn't alone. Across history, there are maps that feel like echoes of lost knowledge, coastlines that shift, islands that appear and vanish, shorelines that do not match the present day. Some of these could be errors, some could be artistic liberties, but all of them remind us that the world's shape has changed, and human memory may have captured pieces of that older shape before it drowned. If sea level rise erased coastlines, it also erased evidence of contact. It's easy to assume ancient cultures were isolated, but isolation is a modern assumption placed onto a past we can't fully see. If there were land bridges, shallow seas, island chains closer together than they are now, then travel was easier than we imagine. Not comfortable, not safe, but possible. And where travel is possible, exchange follows. Ideas move faster than people. Symbols migrate. Techniques spread. Stories match across continents. Strange similarities appear between distant cultures, not because they copied each other in obvious ways, but because they inherited fragments of the same older world, a world now underwater. This is why the sea is not just water. It is history's greatest eraser, not only because it destroys, but because it hides. The ocean doesn't leave ruins visible on the surface. It covers them. It turns them into coral gardens, into silt and shadow. It changes stone into something that looks natural, until a human eye notices a straight edge where no straight edge should exist. And when that eye notices, a dangerous thought follows. If the sea swallowed the true birthplace of civilization, then we have been telling the story backward. We have been starting at the restart and calling it the beginning. We have been treating survivors as founders and ruins as myths. We have been looking at the last page of a book and assuming it's page 1. So the question becomes less romantic and more unsettling. What if humanity's true birthplace now sleeps beneath the sea? If so much was lost to water, what signs have survived? Because water erases, yes, but it also preserves. Beneath the waves, untouched by plows and bulldozers, some things remain remarkably intact. And if we follow the floodline far enough, we don't just find drowned land. We find drowned architecture. We find stone where there should be sand. We find patterns where there should be chaos. And once those patterns are seen, they cannot be unseen. The ocean does not destroy everything. Sometimes it simply hides it long enough that the world forgets it was ever there. There is something unsettling about submerged ruins, not because they are horrifying, but because they feel out of place, like finding a staircase in the middle of a forest with no house around it. Underwater, the mind expects emptiness, but when stone pillars appear in the blue, when flat platforms stretch into the dark, something deep inside the human body reacts. Recognition, as if the world beneath the sea is not foreign, as if it belongs there because it once did. Off the coast of India, near Gujarat, lies Dwarka. In ancient Hindu texts, Dwarka is described as a grand coastal city, associated with Krishna, a place of beauty and order that eventually sank beneath the waves. For centuries, it lived in the realm of sacred story, revered but not investigated. Then underwater discoveries began to surface. Structures, walls, stone blocks. The interpretation is debated, as these things always are. Some claim natural formations. Others argue they are clearly human-made. But the most interesting part is not the conclusion. It's the pattern. A myth says a city sank. The sea now shows signs of stone where a city might have been. And suddenly, the boundary between legend and geology becomes thin. In Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, divers discovered something even stranger. Massive terraces, steps cut into rock, angular formations that resemble an underwater monument. The Yonaguni monument looks carved, shaped, arranged. But the debate remains fierce. Some geologists insist it is natural, created by fracturing and erosion. Others believe human hands worked it, perhaps enhancing a natural base into something deliberate. And standing in the middle of that argument is the quiet reality. The structure exists. Something's there. And it looks enough like intention to keep the mystery alive. In the Bahamas, the Bimini Road runs beneath shallow water like a stone pathway. Large blocks form a line, almost too neat to ignore, almost too messy to confirm. Some say it's a natural beach rock formation. Others believe it could be the remnants of a harbor wall or causeway. Either way, it carries that same underwater eeriness, a suggestion of planning in a place where planning should not exist. And then there is Herakleion. Unlike many underwater mysteries, Herakleion is not a maybe. It was an ancient Egyptian city mentioned in texts, then lost, until it was rediscovered submerged in Abukir Bay. Statues, temples, massive stonework, and artifacts emerged from the mud as if the sea had been holding them like a secret it wasn't ready to reveal. Herakleion proves something simple but profound. Cities can disappear without remaining visible on land. Whole populations can be erased from common memory, leaving only a few lines in writings that later generations dismiss, until the ocean gives it back. The sea does not care whether we believe. It keeps what it takes. And these discoveries raise a new question. If known cities like Herakleion could vanish and become almost myth, what happened to the cities we never recorded at all? Those drowned coastal worlds, the Sunda Shelf, Doggerland, ancient shorelines now submerged, were likely home to countless settlements. Most would have been built from wood, clay, and simple stone. But even simple settlements leave traces. Foundations, fire pits, patterns in the ground. And under the right conditions, the sea preserves them, sealing them beneath sediment like a locked archive. The haunting part is how these underwater sites feel ceremonial. Coral-covered pillars resemble forgotten temples. Staircases lead into open water like invitations to nowhere. Stone blocks sit in silence, softened by centuries, yet still holding their geometry. It's not just that something is there. It's that the human mind senses purpose in it. And purpose is the one thing nature rarely imitates perfectly. Scientific debate in this world becomes part of the atmosphere. There is caution for a reason. Underwater geology can create straight lines. Erosion can mimic architecture. Humans want patterns so badly that they sometimes paint them onto randomness. Skepticism protects us from fantasy. But skepticism can also become a locked door. Because sometimes the simplest explanation is not, it's impossible. Sometimes it's, we don't understand it yet. The deeper we dive into the flooded past, the more the flood myths begin to change color. They stop feeling like moral stories about punishment. They begin to feel like cultural trauma, events remembered in symbol because the raw truth was too large to hold. Almost every major civilization has a flood story. Not just local flooding, but a world-resetting deluge. Not always literal, but always enormous. The pattern repeats. The waters rise. The old world disappears. A handful survive. And the next age begins. We've been trained to treat that as coincidence. But when a coastline can vanish under hundreds of feet of water, coincidence starts to look like memory. And that's where Atlantis slips back into the conversation, not as a crystal-powered fantasy, but as a possibility wearing poetic clothing. Plato described Atlantis as a powerful civilization that sank in a single day and night. Scholars have argued for centuries about whether he meant it literally, but his timing is strangely aligned with Earth's great transitions: the end of the last ice age, the warming world, the seas rising. Maybe Atlantis was not one place. Maybe it was a shorthand name for the world before the water. A world whose ruins now lie scattered beneath oceans, broken into fragments. A wall in India, terraces in Japan, stone roads in the Bahamas, drowned cities in Egypt, and countless unseen structures still sleeping beneath the sediment. The ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily, but it does give hints, and those hints gather into something that feels like a map. Not a map of where Atlantis was, a map of what the planet does. It rises, it floods, it erases, and then humanity begins again, pretending this is the first time. That is why these underwater sites matter, not because they prove one theory, but because they make our certainty impossible. They suggest that what we call the beginning of civilization might have been the beginning of the latest civilization. They hint that people before us may have built, traded, navigated, aligned stone with sky, and then lost it all when the sea reclaimed the lowlands. And if so, the next question becomes unavoidable. If these structures hint at the forgotten, what technologies did their builders possess? Because stone beneath the ocean is not just a curiosity, it is a door. And once opened, it leads straight into the next chamber of this mystery, into impossible engineering, ancient precision, and the unsettling sense that civilization may not be climbing upward for the first time. It may be climbing back up from a fall it can barely remember. Stone is honest. It does not pretend. It does not flatter the mind with comforting stories. It simply sits where it was placed, holding its weight, holding its silence, waiting for someone brave enough to ask how. Across the ancient world, there are structures that feel less like ruins and more like interruptions, as if history was flowing in one direction and then hit something that should not be there. Not a myth, not a metaphor, a physical object that refuses to behave. In Lebanon, on a quiet plateau in the Bekaa Valley, the temple complex of Baalbek rests on a platform built from stones so enormous that the imagination slips when it tries to measure them. One of the blocks, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighs over 1,000 tons. Nearby, other megaliths sit half-buried in the quarry, as if the builders paused mid-sentence and never returned. The Romans later raised their temples on top, adding columns and carvings. But the foundation was already waiting, older and heavier than the empire that claimed it. The usual explanations arrive quickly. Ramps, rollers, teams of men. Enough time and determination can move anything, they say. But the stones at Baalbek are not only heavy, they are precise. Their faces are cut clean, their placement is exact, and the questions grow sharper the longer one stays with them. Why build with stones this large at all, when smaller ones would have worked? Why choose the hardest path, if the goal was merely a wall? Sometimes the strangest part of a mystery is not what was built, but the decision to build it that way. In Egypt, tucked away at Abydos, there is a structure that feels like an echo from an older world. The Osirian sits lower than the nearby temple of Seti I, almost as if it belongs to a deeper layer of time. Massive granite blocks form its core, some weighing dozens of tons, aligned with a kind of cold dignity. Water often pools inside, giving the place a dreamlike stillness, as though it is half temple, half memory. The stones are not decorated the way later Egyptian monuments are. They are plain, enormous, and almost severe. Mainstream timelines place the Osirian in the dynastic period, yet the style feels strangely out of sync, like a relic inherited and repurposed. It raises an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe later civilizations did not create everything they claimed. Maybe they discovered pieces of a prior age and built their identities on top of them, the way a new city grows over an older one without knowing its name. High in the Andes, the walls of Sacsayhuaman curve above Cusco, like the spine of something ancient and unbroken. Here the stones do not stack in neat rows. They lock together, each block shaped to fit its neighbors with an intimacy that looks almost alive. No mortar holds them, yet the seams are so tight that a blade cannot slide between. Some stones have 12, 14, even more angles, each face carved to meet another face perfectly, as if the builders were solving a puzzle too complex for casual hands. The official story says the Inca built these walls, and the Inca were brilliant. They organized labor, shaped landscapes, and mastered their environment. But even Inca chronicles speak of earlier builders, of giants, of a time when the stones were already there. The Inca, they said, merely restored and expanded. Whether that is literal or symbolic, the question remains: how were these stones cut, moved, and joined with such precision? The problem is not that humans are incapable. The problem is that there is no clear trail. No workshop sites filled with failed attempts. No progression from rough work to refined mastery. The walls appear like a finished statement, with no visible apprenticeship behind them. It is as if the knowledge arrived already mature. And this is where the mind begins to reach for easy answers. Aliens, lost supermachines, fantasy explanations that feel exciting for a moment, and then collapse under their own drama. The deeper story is quieter and far more unsettling, because it asks us to consider something simpler. What if the ancients understood principles we no longer use? Not electricity, not rockets, not glowing panels, but resonance, frequency, the behavior of matter when sound and vibration meet it in just the right way. In small modern experiments, sound can move objects. It can suspend droplets. It can shatter glass. It can arrange sand into intricate geometric patterns called cymatics, turning chaos into order through invisible waves. If sound can do that on a table, what might it do in a cavern, on a plateau, at the scale of stone? Ancient stories often treat sound as sacred. Words that create worlds, chants that heal, bells that purify. It is easy to dismiss this as poetic, But poetry sometimes preserves scientific truth in a softer form, especially when direct explanation is too difficult to pass down. There are also places where the earth itself seems to carry a hidden grid. Many great structures sit on faults, springs, or strange magnetic anomalies. Some researchers speak of telluric currents, natural electrical flows through the ground, and wonder if ancient builders learned to harness them, not with wires, but with placement. Not with engines, but with geometry. It is not proof, it is a doorway. And when you stand before stones that refuse to fit the tools we assign to them, a doorway is enough to change your posture. It forces humility. It asks you to stop assuming the past was primitive and the present is superior. Perhaps the future we dream of was already achieved, but it looked different. Not louder, not faster, not brighter, but quieter and more precise. A science that did not fight nature, but cooperated with it. A technology that did not scar the earth, but listened to it. And if that kind of knowledge once existed, it would be incredibly fragile. Not because it was weak, but because it depended on understanding. And understanding is harder to preserve than stone. A single collapse could scatter the teachers, destroy the rituals, break the chain of transmission, leaving only the finished monuments behind, like abandoned instruments. There is one more detail that lingers in the background of all these sites, a detail easy to miss because it is not dramatic. It is the absence of chaos. These stones were not thrown together. They were planned, surveyed, and repeated with discipline. At Baalbek, the platform is level as if measured by a mind that trusted numbers. At Abydos, the blocks sit in symmetry, as though the builders were less concerned with decoration than with alignment. At Sacsayhuaman, the angles seem to anticipate stress, to distribute weight, to endure. And that expectation matters because it implies experience. It suggests that the builders had seen destruction before, had watched structures fail, had learned to build in a way that survives shaking ground and shifting seasons. They built like people who knew the world could change overnight and who wanted their work to outlast the forgetting. Modern construction often chases speed. Ancient construction, at its best, chased endurance. The contrast is almost painful. Our tallest buildings can collapse within hours when conditions turn against them. These walls and platforms have endured thousands of years of rain, sun, invasion, neglect, and still they hold their line. Not because they are magical, but because they were built with patience and purpose. If a lost science once guided their hands, it may not have been stored in machines. It may have been stored in apprenticeship, in oral instruction, in the way a master teaches an apprentice to feel stone rather than fight it. And when disaster erased the teachers, the skill vanished with them, leaving us with only the finished signature. Still standing, so we keep returning to the same question, softer each time, less accusatory, more human. Not who built it, but what did they know? And as the last echoes of chisels fade into the mountains, another thought rises, gentle but persistent. If these people could shape stone with such mastery, what else could they shape? What patterns did they see when they looked upward, beyond the quarries and walls, into the sky? Because the next layer of the mystery is not carved into rock. It is written in starlight. At night, the oldest buildings in the world do something quietly astonishing. They look back, not with windows or eyes, but with their orientation, their angles, their shadows. A stone temple does not care who rules the land around it, but it cares deeply about where the sun rises, where it sets, and which stars return when the seasons turn. That kind of attention is not decoration. It is memory. Long before anyone wrote the word astronomy, people were measuring the sky. They stood in deserts and forests and river valleys, tracking the drift of light across a horizon, listening to the slow machinery of the heavens as if it were a language. The modern mind assumes this was superstition, a primitive urge to worship bright objects. Yet the evidence suggests something far more disciplined. Observation so precise, it borders on the impossible. In southern Egypt, far from the crowds of Giza, there is a place called Nabta Playa. It looks modest at first, a scattering of stones in a barren landscape. But those stones form alignments with solstices and star risings, hinting at a calendar built thousands of years before the pyramids. It is a whisper of organized sky watching at a time we assume humans were still drifting without structure. Then, in the hills of southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe rises again in the mind like a dream that refuses to fade. Its pillars are carved with animals that seem to move in torchlight. But the layout itself is the deeper message. Some researchers believe the arrangement encodes constellations, that the pillars mark a relationship between earth and sky. Whether every claim is correct matters less than the sensation the site produces. A feeling of purposeful alignment, as if the builders were placing a pin in time and saying, "Remember this. This pattern repeats across the world." In Cambodia, Angkor Wat stretches like a stone galaxy, its towers mirroring celestial order. Its measurements align with solar and lunar cycles so neatly that it feels less like a temple and more like a machine for tracking seasons. In Mexico, Teotihuacan is laid out with cold precision. Its Avenue of the Dead set at a deliberate angle, its pyramids positioned as though they were mapping an invisible grid above the city. Why would so many cultures, separated by oceans, arrange their sacred centers around the same sky? The easiest answer is that the heavens are universal. Everyone can see the sun. Everyone can notice the moon. But universality does not explain specificity. It does not explain why the alignments are so exact, why certain stars matter more than others, why the same numbers return in different lands like a chorus. Somewhere along the line, sky watching becomes more than agriculture. It becomes obsession, almost like preparation. The Mayans, for example, did not simply count days. They built a system that could track vast cycles of time, a calendar that reaches across thousands of years with a strange calm, as if its authors were comfortable thinking in spans that dwarf a human life. Their knowledge of Venus was so accurate that it reads like the output of careful calculation, not guessing. Their temples and observatories were tuned to the sky, and their myths spoke in the language of epochs, not mere seasons. In India, Vedic cosmology holds another kind of vastness. Time is layered into ages, each with its own character. each turning into the next like waves. The concept of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis across roughly 26,000 years, appears in fragments of ancient knowledge that should have been difficult to gather without long observation. The idea that the sky changes slowly over millennia is not the kind of insight a casual stargazer stumbles into. It is the result of memory preserved across generations. And then there is the Dogon, a people of Mali whose traditions speak of Sirius as a system, not a single star. They tell stories of a companion star, heavy and small, orbiting Sirius. Modern astronomy confirms a white dwarf there, invisible to the naked eye. The debate over how the Dogon acquired this knowledge is endless, and the truth may be complex, tangled in contact, interpretation, and translation. Yet the mystery remains, because the story itself exists, and it echoes a wider pattern. Ancient peoples knew the sky in ways that do not fit our expectations. The more one studies these examples, the less satisfying it becomes to call it coincidence. Coincidence does not build observatories. Coincidence does not carve calendars into stone. Coincidence does not align entire cities to the solstice with an accuracy that can be checked thousands of years later. A calmer possibility emerges. Perhaps this knowledge was not invented independently in each place, but inherited, passed down like a family secret. A set of sky rules remembered because forgetting them was dangerous. Because the sky is not only beautiful, it is also a clock, and clocks measure cycles. If Earth has endured impacts, floods, and sudden climate shifts, then the people who survived such events would have learned a hard lesson. They would have learned that the world changes, and that change can return. They might begin to look upward for warning, searching for patterns that precede catastrophe. Not to predict the future with certainty, but to sense when the rhythm is turning. In that light, the ancient monuments become more than monuments. They become instruments. They become reminders embedded in architecture. Look here, on this day, at this angle. Remember this star. Mark this shift. Teach your children. It is difficult to prove intentions across millennia, but intentions leave traces. They leave repetition, and repetition is everywhere. Even the shapes repeat. Circles of stones, straight avenues, triangular forms. The same sacred geometry appears as though it migrated through the mind of humanity itself. A triangle pointing upward, a square holding a center, a line aligned to north. These forms are not random art. They are tools for orienting consciousness within the larger world. And the deeper twist is that some of this knowledge is not only observational, it is mathematical. It involves ratios, cycles, and predictive patterns. The Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck, reveals gears designed to track lunar and solar movements with stunning sophistication. It is not a one-off miracle. It is evidence that complex sky calculation existed long before the modern age claimed it. If such devices were possible, how many were lost? How many sank, burned, rusted away? How many were simply melted down because no one recognized what they were? The more fragile the evidence, the easier it is to dismiss. But dismissal does not erase the underlying fact. The ancients were paying attention in a way that suggests urgency. Maybe they were not predicting the stars. Maybe they were remembering how the stars looked before the last reset, remembering the seasons that vanished, remembering the day the sky behaved strangely. In that sense, astronomy becomes a form of survival knowledge, a way of anchoring time when everything else is unstable, a way of saying, even if the coastlines move and the cities drown, Orion will still rise, and the solstice will return, and the world can be rebuilt around that certainty. They watched eclipses the way a sailor watches clouds. An eclipse is not just an event, but a reminder that light can vanish without warning. They watched comets, those visitors with tails, because a comet is both omen and object, beauty and threat. Many traditions describe a hairy star that arrives before disaster, a torch in the heavens that leaves fear in its wake. Even if the stories grew symbolic over time, the original impulse feels practical. Notice anything unusual above the earth. They also watched the quiet changes that no single lifetime can grasp. The slow shift of star positions over centuries, the way certain constellations greet dawn in one age and slip away in another. A mind trained to notice those movements is a mind trained to think beyond personal survival, to think in eras. That kind of thinking is rare, and when it appears across cultures, it hints at a shared reason to be patient. So when we ask how ancient cultures knew what modern science confirmed much later, the answer may not be a single secret. It may be endurance. It may be continuity. It may be memory preserved through story, ritual, and stone, carried like a flame through dark centuries. And now, standing beneath the same sky, we begin to see why so many ancient people built upward and outward, marking the heavens with such devotion. They were not only worshipping, they were watching for the next turn of the cycle, watching for signs that the rhythm was rising again. And as the night deepens and the stars remain indifferent, one question drifts into the mind, like a disturbance in still water. What were these sky watchers watching for? The sky has not always been still. There are moments, carved in stone, whispered in myth, etched into the memory of the earth itself, when the sky did something it was not supposed to do. It moved, it screamed, it fell, and when it did, the world changed. This section begins in silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence after something unspeakable, a silence shaped like ash, like ice, like absence, the kind of silence that follows a cataclysm too large for a single generation to explain, so it becomes story. And yet, the earth remembers. The Chicxulub crater, buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula, is not visible to the naked eye, but it is real, measuring over 90 miles across, the scar of an impact so powerful it wiped out nearly 75% of all life on Earth. That was 66 million years ago. The dinosaurs ended not with a whimper, but with a fireball, heat, darkness, acid rain. And then the slow death of ecosystems. It was not mythology. It was planetary trauma. We are told that event is unique, but it is not alone. In 1908, in the remote Siberian forest of Tunguska, something exploded in the sky. Trees for hundreds of square miles were flattened outward, as if a giant hand had pressed down and vanished. No crater was found, no impactor recovered. But the blast was real. estimated at 1,000 times the force of Hiroshima. Some believe it was a comet or asteroid. Others suggest an airburst, a cosmic object detonating in the atmosphere before touching Earth. Witnesses described a glowing sky, a thunder that never seemed to end. That was just over a century ago. A cosmic warning, perhaps, that impact is not an ancient fear. It is a recurring event. Then there's the Younger Dryas boundary, an enigmatic layer of black soil found across North America and parts of Europe. Roughly 12,800 years ago, the world was warming from the last ice age. And then, suddenly, it wasn't. Temperatures plunged, megafauna disappeared, cultures collapsed, and in the geological layers, something strange appears. Nanodiamonds, magnetic spherules, elevated platinum, materials associated with high-energy impacts. Some scientists argue for a cometary impact or airburst event as the trigger, a cosmic strike that unleashed fires, floods, and atmospheric chaos. But this is not just geology. Around the world, myths begin with destruction. The Hopi speak of the Fire Clan, survivors of a world that burned. The Zulu remember a star that fell and split the earth. The Norse speak of Ragnarok, where fire and ice meet in cosmic war. The Bible tells of fire and brimstone. The Mahabharata recalls heavenly weapons and firestorms. These stories, scattered by language and geography, repeat one thing: the sky once fell. We have grown used to treating these stories as metaphor. But perhaps metaphor is how people describe the indescribable. If a celestial event shattered the sky and turned day into night, what language would survive? If heat turned rivers to steam and mountains to ash, how would a survivor explain it? They would not give coordinates. They would tell a story. And perhaps that story would begin with a serpent. In ancient art, comets are often depicted as snakes, dragons, or flaming arrows. In petroglyphs across the American Southwest, spirals and serpent shapes explode outward from human figures, as if something from above transformed the world below. Some of these symbols, studied by researchers like Anthony Perrat, are not artistic whims. They resemble plasma formations, shapes formed in high-energy electrical discharges that could occur during cosmic events. Carved into stone, these shapes look like chaos, but they may be memory. Etched in panic, recorded by those who saw the sky tear open. The Carolina Bays, oval-shaped depressions stretching across the eastern United States, are another mystery. Aligned in the same direction, often filled with water, they have long puzzled geologists. Some suggest they are remnants of a fragmented comet, striking ice sheets or air bursting above. Critics argue they are wind-formed, but the debate itself reveals the deeper issue. The Earth has scars we do not fully understand. And among those scars are stories, not only in soil, but in legend. The Anishinaabe speak of a time when the sky people grew angry, and a great fire rained down. The Aztec Codex Borgia shows celestial serpents devouring the sun. In Egypt, the Dendera zodiac suggests cataclysmic cycles. In South America, Viracocha appears after the flood. In Sumer, Oannes rises from the sea to restore order. Each of these myths begins not with peace, but with loss. Something fell, something ended, and someone remembered. For years, mainstream science has resisted the idea that celestial trauma shaped civilization. The sky, after all, is supposed to be stable. The stars, constant. The cosmos, distant and indifferent. But the evidence says otherwise. The Earth is not a sealed system. It exists in a dangerous neighborhood, and sometimes that danger crosses the threshold. When it does, the impact is not just physical. It is cultural. It reshapes myths, rewrites gods, reorients memory, and it leaves questions. Why do so many ancient traditions fear the sky? Why do temples align with celestial cycles, not just for beauty, but as if timing mattered? Why do calendars begin after floods? The emotional core of this section is not panic, but grief. Because if the sky has fallen before, it means we are part of a cycle we barely understand. A cycle of ascent, destruction, forgetting, and beginning again. And in that cycle, each civilization carries the risk of erasure, not by war or decay, but by a moment of fire from above. But there's a deeper layer, because after the fire, someone always comes. The myths say they arrive from the sea, or the stars, or the edge of the world. They bring knowledge. They bring order. They begin the story again. In the next section, we look at these figures not as gods, but as carriers of fire, survivors from a world before the impact, people who remembered and who tried to make sure we did too. When the sky fell, it didn't just leave behind ash and silence. It left survivors. Not many, perhaps only a few. But those few, if they existed, became something more than human in the eyes of those who remained. They were the ones who remembered, who knew how to plant, how to count, how to measure the heavens. They became gods, not because they wanted worship, but because they carried something the broken world had lost. They carried memory, and wherever we look, we find them. In Sumeria, he was called Oannes, a being who emerged from the sea, wearing the skin of a fish, bringing knowledge to the early people. He taught writing, mathematics, architecture, law. He came not to conquer, but to rebuild. In the Andes, there was Viracocha, a white-robed figure who walked among the ruins after a great flood, teaching survivors how to plant, how to live, how to build. He was said to have traveled the land, restoring order, then departing across the ocean, promising to return. In Mesoamerica, they called him Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, part sky, part earth. He brought calendars, astronomy, and ethics. And like Viracocha, he arrived after disaster. And like Viracocha, he left when his work was done. Different names, different continents, same story. A world destroyed. A being arrives, civilization begins again. The academic view treats these figures as myth, archetypes, symbols of civilizing influence. And perhaps they are. But perhaps archetypes have roots in reality. Perhaps these were not literal gods. Perhaps they were human, or nearly so. Survivors from a previous age, carriers of fire. Imagine what it would feel like to emerge from a world of high knowledge into a world of ash, to stand among hunter-gatherers and show them how to track the stars, to reteach farming, to rebuild calendars, To explain what the moon does, you would seem divine. But divinity would not be your goal. Survival would be. Continuity. You would not try to restore what was lost. You would try to plant what could grow again. These civilizing figures share traits. They bring systems, not weapons but wisdom, not power but rhythm. Their teachings are often encoded in geometry, in architecture, in story. They are not worshipped for thunder. They are remembered for order, and they are always tied to the sea. They come from the ocean, or they leave across it. They wear fish skins. They move like the tide. Why? Perhaps because the sea was the only safe route left. After the sky fell, after the land burned, the ocean may have been the only path to survival. Boats became lifeboats. The coast became a map. But not all the carriers arrived safely. Some were hunted, misunderstood, feared. The myths are full of warnings. People rejected the gods. People betrayed them. People forgot too quickly. Which raises a difficult question. If someone tried to preserve memory, why didn't it work? Why did we forget again? Perhaps the knowledge was too fragile. Perhaps it was oral, symbolic, dependent on ritual. Perhaps it was encoded in patterns, monuments aligned to stars, myths about floods, stories of serpents and twins and fire. But symbols can lose meaning. Monuments can crumble. Languages can die. And when they do, memory becomes myth. Myth becomes story. Story becomes entertainment. And the fire is lost. Or perhaps we chose to forget. Perhaps remembering was too painful, too overwhelming. Perhaps the trauma of cataclysm imprinted so deeply that silence felt safer than survival. Either way, the result is the same. We stand in a world that feels new, but maybe very old. We repeat patterns without realizing it. We build on floodplains. We ignore the stars. We forget that once a god may have been a refugee, carrying the last ember of a lost age. And yet, the stories persist. They persist because memory is stubborn. Because even if the fire goes out, the ash carries shape. Even if the monument falls, the stone remembers alignment. Even if the god leaves, the echo of their walk remains in the myth. And maybe that's enough. Because now, in our age, we are starting to see these patterns again. We are beginning to listen, not just to the texts, but to the trauma behind them. Not just to the hero, but to the survivor. We are remembering that gods are not always eternal. Sometimes they are people who lived through fire and tried to teach us how not to repeat it. But if the message was lost, if the memory was broken, then the final question is not what they taught. It's why we didn't keep it. And that brings us to the next layer of the mystery. Because now we must ask, if knowledge was passed down, who buried it? And why do we keep forgetting? Memory is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a burden. And so we forget. Forgetting is not a passive process. It is not an accident. Forgetting is, at times, deliberate. It is a tool, an act of design meant to shape the present by erasing the past. When history begins to speak and a culture starts to piece together the puzzle of its origins, something happens. Someone decides that the pieces must be scattered again, and they are scattered by fire. The library at Alexandria once the grandest repository of human knowledge, is the most famous casualty. But it is not the only one. Throughout history, we find libraries burning, not because of accident or carelessness, but because of intention. The scrolls, the codices, the knowledge passed from hand to hand. Each act of destruction was a silencing, an erasure, an attempt to hold the future in the palm of a hand by cutting off the roots beneath it. When Nalanda, a great university in ancient India, was destroyed by invaders in the 12th century, its vast collection of texts, its knowledge of the world, was lost forever. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts were consumed by flames. They weren't destroyed in the name of progress or warfare. They were erased to suppress understanding. For a culture to reclaim the past, it must rebuild from memory. But if memory is stripped away, how does it return? When the Mayan codices were burned by Spanish conquistadors, whole worlds vanished into smoke. The Mayan civilization was far more than pyramids and priests. Their understanding of time, their observations of the cosmos, their art, all were written down in codices made of bark paper. But the Spanish saw these texts as heretical, as unholy, and so they burned them. The result was the loss of an entire cultural worldview. Yet even in their destruction, these codices whisper, in fragments, in hidden images, in the preserved memory of those who saw what was lost, but could not speak it aloud. Each time a culture begins to recover its knowledge, the fire comes. The Inquisition burns books. The great library of Baghdad is ransacked and burned to the ground. Oral traditions are outlawed, erased from the collective consciousness in the name of conformity. The destruction is often portrayed as an unfortunate accident, but in truth, it is always a choice. By an empire, a church, a conqueror, a government. History is not just forgotten by chance. It is forgotten because it serves those in power to control what is remembered. In the modern world, it happens in subtler ways. The standardization of education is a tool not of enlightenment, but of control. We learn what we are taught, not what we could discover. Textbooks, institutions, and narratives are shaped not by what truly happened, but by what those in power want remembered. History is framed as a neat, linear progression, from chaos to order, from ignorance to enlightenment. But the edges of that narrative are always blurred. The inconvenient truths, the dangerous patterns, the unsettling histories, these are the stories that disappear first. What is framed as progress often functions as cultural amnesia. We are told we've learned from the past, that we are more enlightened, more compassionate, more advanced than those who came before. But this is not always true. Sometimes we are not advancing. We are resetting, building the same things over and over, but forgetting the knowledge that could have taken us further. There is a chilling pattern to this. Every time a culture reaches toward its past, every time it begins to piece together the fragments of lost knowledge, the fire comes. And when the fire is not literal, it comes in other forms. It comes in the form of disinterest. It comes in the form of ridicule. It comes in the form of distraction. Societies too caught up in the noise of the present to look back at the patterns that would warn them. But even when memory is targeted, even when it is buried under layers of destruction, fragments always survive. In ruins, in songs, in stone. The stones remember, and that is where we must turn. Because even when knowledge is burned, when books are destroyed, when oral traditions are outlawed, there is a deeper current in the human story, a current that refuses to let memory die. It's in the ruins we still visit, in the fragments of ancient texts we still decipher. It's in the myths that survive, not as fiction, but as fossils of a deeper truth. And sometimes, the whispers of these memories are all we need to hear to begin remembering again. What if the world we know is built on the ashes of the worlds that came before? What if the fire isn't always a loss, but a reminder? It's easy to dismiss mythology, to treat it as quaint, to tell ourselves that these stories were invented by primitive minds seeking meaning in an indifferent world. But what if the myths we cling to are not fantasies? What if they are memories, trapped in symbols, buried beneath layers of interpretation and time? The most persistent myths are often the most universal. The world tree, the serpent, the great flood, the twin guardians. These symbols repeat across cultures, stretching from ancient Sumer to modern-day Native American folklore. They echo through the ages, from the Aztecs' Quetzalcoatl to the Norse Yggdrasil to the biblical Garden of Eden. And when we look at them closely, we begin to notice something strange. These are not just fanciful tales. They are the symbols of something much older. They are the symbols of memory, carefully preserved by people who knew that to forget would be to lose everything. What if mythology is not fantasy, but fossilized memory? In each of these symbols lies an imagot that transcends culture. The world tree, for instance, is not just a tree. It is an axis, a connection between the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. It is a map, a guide to the structure of the world, from the Norse Yggdrasil to the Mayan tree of life. This symbol appears repeatedly across vast distances, suggesting that it was not just a random invention, but a memory of how the ancients saw the world. They saw it as connected, a cycle that was not merely physical, but spiritual. And they encoded this understanding into their stories. The serpent is another archetype that appears in virtually every major civilization's mythology. From the Nagual of Mesoamerican cultures to the serpents of the Nile, the serpent represents both danger and wisdom. It sheds its skin, symbolizing renewal. It moves through the earth, representing transformation. And yet, what if the serpent is not just a symbol of danger or knowledge, but a symbol of something more ancient? Something that was literally seen in the sky. A comet, a flaming trail across the heavens that left its mark in myth long after it disappeared. And then there is the Great Flood. This is perhaps the most pervasive myth of all, found in cultures from the Sumerians to the Hebrews, from the Greeks to the Native Americans. The flood myth is not just a story of water. It is a story of survival, of a world destroyed and reborn. The flood represents both the destruction of civilization and the beginning of something new. It is memory encoded in water. It is a warning buried in the past. These myths are not born from imagination alone. They are memories, fragments of a world that was once connected, a world where knowledge was passed down, not through books or scrolls, but through stories, rituals, and symbols. They are memories of catastrophes that reshaped the earth. They are memories of knowledge lost and reborn, and they survive because they were too important to be forgotten. Jungian psychology teaches us that these symbols, the world tree, the serpent, the flood, are archetypes, expressions of the human collective unconscious. But what if they are more than just psychological patterns? What if they are recorded experiences, handed down through generations as warnings, as guides, as a way to preserve what was lost? In every culture, myths evolve to fit the context of the time. The flood becomes the deluge of Noah. The serpent becomes the tempter in the Garden of Eden. The world tree becomes the axis of the cosmos. But at their core, these myths are the same. They are memories camouflage, layered with the thick fog of time. And beneath the layers of interpretation and adaptation, we begin to see a deeper truth. The ancients weren't just telling stories. They were telling us what happened. They were encoding history into their myths. The further we look into these myths, the more we realize that memory never truly dies. It only shifts form. It moves from stone to song, from script to myth, from culture to culture. And though the surface changes, the core remains the same. The great flood in one culture becomes the world flood in another. The serpent in one tradition becomes the dragon in another. The world tree in one civilization becomes the axis mundi in another. The emotional thread of these symbols, the fear, the hope, the survival, connects us to those who lived before. And so, we come to the realization we've known all along. We've known that the world was once different, that it was once whole, and that something happened to tear it apart. But the stories were not lost. They were passed down. We just didn't know how to listen. We couldn't hear the echoes beneath the words. As we continue to unravel these myths, we begin to see the fragments that have survived. And we begin to wonder, what if we are beginning to remember again? Because if these stories are memories, then what comes next is not just discovery. It is reawakening. And the journey of remembrance is far from over. There is a strange vibration in the air today. It isn't a sudden noise or a sharp jolt. It's a hum, a quiet resonance, one that seems to pulse just beneath the surface of modern life, like a whisper you almost hear, just on the edge of understanding. And it's not limited to one place. It's everywhere. Across the world, there is an undeniable resurgence of interest in ancient knowledge, sacred geometry, ancient astronomy, plant medicine, and earth-based spirituality. From the rediscovery of sites like Göbekli Tepe to the revival of indigenous healing practices, something is stirring. It's not nostalgia, it's instinct. People are waking up. But waking up to what? What are we remembering? For years, the prevailing narrative has been that humanity is on a steady, linear path of progress. We are told that each generation builds upon the last, growing more advanced, more enlightened, more connected to the universe. Yet, there is a growing sense that this narrative is incomplete. More and more, people are looking back, not just to revisit, but to rediscover, to reconnect with something that has been forgotten. Göbekli Tepe, in southeastern Turkey, is one of the most significant examples. The site, thought to be over 11,000 years old, was discovered only in the 1990s. Its intricate stone pillars, aligned with celestial bodies, suggest a deep understanding of astronomy. The site was buried deliberately, as if its creators wanted it hidden. Why? Was it erased to prevent its knowledge from spreading, or did its builders hide it in a moment of uncertainty? And why has it taken so long for humanity to uncover this hidden knowledge? In this moment, the rediscovery of Göbekli Tepe and other ancient sites is not just an archaeological endeavor. It is an awakening, a return to a time when the earth was seen as a living being, capable of teaching and guiding. These ancient sites were not just places of worship or ritual. They were meant to be living maps, blueprints for understanding the earth, the heavens, and the space between. They were encoded with knowledge that seems almost too advanced to belong to their time. And now, as we unearth these fragments, it feels as though the earth is whispering to us again. Alongside the resurgence of ancient sites comes a rise in earth-based spirituality. People are reconnecting with the natural world, practicing rituals that honor the land, the cycles of the seasons, and the stars. There is a new wave of interest in sacred geometry, in the patterns that repeat across the natural world, in the alignment of plants, animals, and human consciousness. People are beginning to sense that there is more to the earth than meets the eye, that it is speaking to us if we can learn to listen. And then there is the growing distrust in linear historical timelines. More and more, people are questioning the idea that history is a simple linear progression from ignorance to knowledge, from barbarism to civilization. Instead, many are turning to the idea that history is cyclical, that civilizations rise, fall, and rise again, each time building on the memory of the past. This new understanding isn't based on blind speculation. It's rooted in the increasing number of discoveries that suggest our understanding of the past is incomplete. What if humanity's true history is not the one we've been told? What if the real story is one of loss and recovery, of knowledge rediscovered after being buried by time? This awakening is not isolated to fringe movements or conspiracy theorists. It's happening everywhere, in mainstream circles, in academic institutions, and in the quiet spaces of personal introspection. The resurgence of interest in ancient wisdom is not a passing trend. It is a collective, almost primal desire to remember, to reconnect with something deeper. People are not just discovering ancient wisdom, they are remembering it, as though it was always there, just waiting to be called back. But this reawakening is not just about recovering lost knowledge. It is about recognizing that the answers we've been searching for may not lie in the future, but in the past. The ancient world was not primitive. It was different. Its people may have understood something we have forgotten, something about the earth, the stars, and the deep interconnectedness of all life. The resurgence of interest in these ancient teachings is a sign that we are beginning to remember that wisdom. What if, instead of discovering ancient wisdom, we are merely tapping into the long-dormant awareness that has always been there, waiting for the right time to resurface? It is not a random curiosity. It is instinct. The earth is speaking again, and we are starting to listen. But this is just the beginning. The real question is, what happens next? What will we do with this knowledge once we begin to remember? What actions will we take? The earth is not simply a place of survival. It is a teacher, And as we begin to reawaken to its wisdom, we must ask ourselves, how will we use it? In the quiet moments, when we listen closely to the whispers of the earth, we begin to sense something strange. We are not the end of the story. We are part of a much longer lineage, a thread that stretches both backward and forward in time. Just as the ancients looked to the stars for guidance, we are beginning to look backward to the knowledge they left behind. And we are asking ourselves, what should we leave behind? What if we are the ancestors of a future we cannot yet imagine? When we speak of the past, we often think of it as something that belongs to those who lived before us. The ancients, those who built the great cities, who carved the monuments, who planted the first seeds of civilization. But the more we study the past, the more we realize that the ancients were not so different from us. They too were just people. They too wondered about the future. They too feared the same cycles of destruction and rebirth. And they too tried to leave something behind, a message for those who would come after. But now, the question has turned. What will we leave behind? What will the future say about us? We live in a time of unprecedented change. The earth is shifting. Our civilizations are shifting. And as we stand on the precipice of an uncertain future, we must ask, what will we leave behind for the future generations? What will they find when they look to us as the ancestors of their world? This moment, this very story we are telling, may one day be the fragment they discover. They may find this documentary, this film, this message from the past, and they will ask, what did we leave behind? What knowledge did we pass on? What wisdom did we carry with us? And what did we forget? In this moment, the narrative shifts from the past to the future, not to preservation, but to legacy. We are no longer just preserving information or monuments. We are shaping a legacy, not of data, but of wisdom. What should we carve in stone? What seeds should we plant, not just in soil, but in story? What patterns should we leave behind that will guide the future, just as the ancients left their marks on us? It is not enough to remember. It is not enough to collect knowledge and bury it in libraries or in textbooks. We must ensure that knowledge is alive. We must pass it on in ways that are not just intellectual, but emotional, spiritual, and relational. Wisdom is not only information. It is how we live, how we connect to the earth, how we interact with each other, how we care for what we've been given. In this moment, we are not just spectators in history. We are participants in its continuation. We are part of the remembering. We are the link between the past and the future. And in that role, we must ask ourselves, what will we leave behind? Perhaps the question is not whether the ancients left their mark. Perhaps the real question is, how will we leave our mark? As we move forward, we must think not just about survival, but about continuity. What can we leave that will resonate with future generations? What can we offer to the world that will outlast our time? The earth remembers. The earth is always listening. But what if the true legacy we leave behind is not something to be found in books, but in actions, in the way we live today, in the stories we pass on, in the connections we make? The ancients built monuments of stone, but they also built monuments of story. We are not just building cities or structures. We are building stories. And those stories will carry our legacy. They will be the monuments we leave behind. The emotional resolution is not in closure, but in continuation. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of a new chapter. We are the inheritors of a legacy, and we are the ones who must pass it on. The final question is not one of discovery. It is one of responsibility. And the last words are not a conclusion. They are a whisper for those who come next. There is a place where memory is not just written in books, not just carved into stone, but imprinted in the very fabric of our being. It's the quietest of memories, woven not into the conscious mind, but into the body itself, in our genes, in our cells, in the physiological traits that define who we are and how we interact with the world. These are memories that survive not in stories, but in experience. In the growing field of epigenetics, scientists are beginning to understand that our ancestors' experiences can be encoded in the very structure of our DNA, passed down from generation to generation, sometimes without us even realizing it. The world our ancestors lived in, the environments they adapted to, the traumas they endured. They didn't just leave behind stories or monuments. They left behind biological echoes hidden in our genes. What if these echoes are not random? What if they are memories? What if, within us, there are residues of the civilizations that once thrived and fell before us? Take, for example, the Bajau people, a group of maritime nomads who live in Southeast Asia. For generations, the Bajau have been diving deep into the ocean, holding their breath for minutes at a time, reaching depths that most humans would find impossible. This extraordinary diving ability is not just the result of training. Recent research has found that the Bajau people possess a genetic mutation that gives them larger spleens, enabling them to hold more oxygen while underwater. This adaptation, passed down through generations, is a direct result of their ancestors' way of life. But why did their ancestors develop this ability? Could it be that the Bajau are not just survivors of their environment, but bearers of a memory embedded in their DNA, a memory of a time when humans lived more intimately with the ocean? And consider the Andean peoples, who have adapted to life at extreme altitudes. High in the Andes, people have developed extraordinary physiological traits that allow them to survive in oxygen-thin environments. Their bodies have higher red blood cell counts and more efficient oxygen-carrying hemoglobin. These adaptations have been passed down over thousands of years, and yet the question remains, why did the Andean peoples develop these traits in the first place? Could it be that they are the descendants of a civilization that lived at high altitudes long before recorded history, and that the genetic adaptations we see today are the echoes of an ancient survival mechanism? These examples show that our bodies carry more than just the physical characteristics we are born with. They carry memories of environments, of survival, and of civilizations. But what if those memories aren't just about survival? What if our biology holds on to something deeper, something about the world that was lost? What if our bodies remember ancient civilizations that our minds have forgotten? The more we delve into inherited trauma, the more we begin to understand that memory is not just psychological, but biological. The Holocaust, the suffering of enslaved peoples, the loss of indigenous lands, these traumatic experiences are passed down through generations, encoded in our very DNA. They are not forgotten. They are carried with us, invisible, yet real. And if trauma can be inherited, then why not wisdom? Why not knowledge? What if humanity doesn't just forget with its mind, but carries memory in its biology? Even in forgetting, humanity remembers something. The body doesn't lie. It holds on to the past, not in conscious recollection, but in the whispers of our cells. And as science begins to unlock these hidden codes, we may find that the bodies of modern humans are libraries filled with ancient knowledge waiting to be discovered. What happens when we begin to awaken this knowledge? Can we reconnect with what was lost? Can we tap into the memories that are encoded in our very beings, waiting to be remembered? The awakening is already beginning, but the deeper question remains. What will we do with this knowledge once we find it? How will it shape the future we are building? The dreams we have are often dismissed as nothing more than random images, our minds attempting to make sense of the chaos of daily life. But what if our dreams are not just figments of imagination? What if they are memories, not of our daily experiences, but of something older, something deeper? Across cultures, for thousands of years, people have used altered states of consciousness through dreams, trance, or the use of sacred plants to retrieve knowledge that exists outside of time. Shamans, mystics, and healers have known for centuries that the mind is not confined to the present moment. It can reach back, stretching across time, tapping into a deeper well of memory and knowing. In the Amazon, the Shipibo people use ayahuasca, a powerful plant medicine, to journey into the spiritual realms. They believe that through the plant's effects, they can access the wisdom of the ancestors and communicate with the spirits of the land. The Shipibo don't see themselves as engaging in mere hallucinations. They see themselves as reconnecting with the living memory of the earth itself. The visions they experience, the symbols they receive, are not random. They are messages from the past, encoded in sacred geometry and passed down through generations. Similarly, the San people of southern Africa use the practice of trance dance to enter altered states. Through rhythmic movement and intense focus, they believe they can commune with spirits and ancestors. The trance is not a means of escape. It is a method of remembering, of awakening to a reality that exists just beyond the veil of everyday life. For the San, dreams and visions are a direct link to the world that was lost, to the knowledge that was once passed down but forgotten by the wider world. The Kogi people of Colombia, one of the last indigenous groups to maintain an unbroken connection with their ancestors' traditions, believe that their dreams are more than just reflections of the unconscious. For them, dreams are a bridge to a deeper knowing, a means of connecting with the spiritual essence of the earth. The Kogi speak of the heart of the world, a sacred center that they believe holds the key to the survival of the planet. Through dream and vision, they seek guidance from the earth itself, receiving knowledge about how to live in harmony with nature and protect the world from the disasters caused by human imbalance. These cultures are not primitive. They are not disconnected from the world of modernity. They are in tune with a forgotten reality, one that we have lost touch with in the rush of industrialization, in the pursuit of progress. Their practices are not escapes, but pathways to a deeper understanding of the world, of the rhythms of the earth, and of the wisdom that once lived at the center of human existence. But what if this deeper knowing is not lost forever? What if we, too, have access to it? What if the dreams we have, the strange, vivid dreams that seem to carry an ancient weight, are not just a result of random synapses firing, but a reawakening of memories that have been buried deep within us? What if the dreams you've had since childhood, those inexplicable images, those landscapes, those figures, were not imagination, but memories resurfacing? In altered states, whether through meditation, dream, or the use of sacred plants, we may be accessing something more profound than we realize. We may be reconnecting with a knowledge that was once ours, that once flowed through our ancestors and is now stirring in us again. It is a quiet reawakening, a gentle opening of the door to something older, something that has always been there, waiting for us to remember. The question now becomes not whether we can remember, but how we will use this remembering. How will we integrate this knowledge, not just into our understanding of the past, but into the future we are building? As we awaken these ancient memories, both within our biology and within our dreams, how will they shape the world to come? Will we use this knowledge to heal or to destroy? Will we choose to build a future that honors the wisdom of the past? Or will we continue down the path of forgetting? The mystery is waking up, piece by piece, and we are at the center of it. The only question left is how we will answer the call. Because once the memory begins to stir, there is no turning back. Throughout the cycles of rise and fall, in the spaces between destruction and renewal, there have always been those who kept the flame alive. These were not the kings, the emperors, or the conquerors. They were not the ones who built great monuments or amassed wealth. Instead, they were the quiet ones, the memory keepers, the custodians of stories, knowledge, and traditions that stretched beyond the reach of written language and civilization's formal structures. They were the elders, the wandering mystics, the oral historians, the underground monks, the ones who risked everything to preserve the thread of humanity's deepest truths. In Mali, the Dogon people speak of the stars, of knowledge passed down from ancient times. They know of Sirius B, the invisible companion star to our sun, a star that modern science only confirmed in the 20th century. How did the Dogon know this, long before telescopes? They speak of gods descending from the sky, bringing them knowledge about the stars and about life itself. These weren't just myths. They were archives, records of a time when humanity knew more, when knowledge was shared directly, when the language of the stars was understood. The Dogon preserved this knowledge in songs, in stories, and in rituals passed down from generation to generation, not because they thought it was mystical, but because it was survival. In North America, the Hopi have maintained a similar understanding of the world. Their oral history stretches back to a time long before written records, keeping alive knowledge of the great migrations, the cataclysms that once struck their people, and the prophecies of the future. The Hopi speak of a time when humanity must return to its roots, to reconnect with the earth and the cycles that sustain it. The kiva, their sacred ceremonial space, is more than a place of ritual. It is a repository of memory, a living archive where the past is still very much alive in the present. And then there are the Vedic rishis of ancient India, who recorded knowledge not just on paper or stone, but in sound. The Vedas were passed down orally for thousands of years, with each word carefully enunciated, each syllable vibrating with ancient wisdom. To the Vedic rishis, knowledge wasn't just something you could record. It was something that could be heard, felt, and experienced through deep resonance with the universe itself. They were not the first to know the power of sound, but they were among the first to encode it into the living memory of a civilization. The Polynesian navigators are perhaps the most remarkable example. Without compasses or maps, the ancient Polynesians explored vast stretches of ocean, navigating by the stars, by ocean swells, by the flight paths of birds. Their knowledge of the ocean was not just passed through words. It was lived, passed down in the rhythms of paddling, in the songs of the sea, in the memorization of constellations. They carried the map of the world in their minds and bodies, and they knew that memory could never be entrusted to paper or stone. It had to be embodied, passed from generation to generation in the very rhythm of life. These memory keepers were not primitive. They were the guardians of what was most sacred, the knowledge that connects us to the earth, to the heavens, and to each other. While empires built grand cities and libraries, these humble keepers preserved what was most important, the understanding that the earth was not something to be conquered, but something to be understood, loved, and honored. We have much to learn from them. The contrast between modern fragility and ancient durability is stark. Today, our knowledge is stored in hard drives, in cloud systems, in files that can be deleted with the press of a button. We live in a world of digital data, vast, expansive, but fleeting. Our records can be wiped away in an instant. Our knowledge can be lost to a glitch, a hack, or an EMP. But the ancient memory keepers passed down knowledge that lasted millennia. Their stories did not fade with time. They didn't rely on machines to preserve them. They relied on the strength of human memory, on the power of the spoken word, on the resilience of ritual. Oral traditions lasted where written records failed. Even when empires fell and libraries burned, the knowledge lived on in the hearts of those who carried it. They were the architects of memory, not through stone or script, but through the breath of life itself. So, as we stand in the modern world, with all our technology and all our advancements, we must ask, what have we lost? What knowledge do we still carry, buried beneath the layers of civilization, waiting to be remembered? We are not the first modern humans. We are simply the first disconnected ones. And the question now is, can we reconnect? Can we awaken the flame that has been kept alive for so long? What will we leave behind? And will we be remembered? As we look to the future, we must ask ourselves a grave question. What will remain of us when we are gone? Our world is dominated by technology. Every day, we create and consume more information than ever before. We store our knowledge in hard drives, in cloud storage, in digital archives that can be accessed from anywhere. Our lives are constantly documented. Photographs, videos, social media posts, written records. We create vast digital libraries that contain the sum of human knowledge. And yet, how permanent is it? The truth is, our data is fragile. A hard drive can fail. A server can crash. A website can disappear. Even the most advanced technologies cannot guarantee that our digital records will survive long term. If humanity were to disappear tomorrow, what would remain? What would future civilizations, if any, find? The plastic we produce will remain in the ground for millennia, but without meaning. The glass, the electronics, the radiation, all will endure. But the knowledge, the wisdom, it will decay. But there are other things that endure. The pyramids of Giza still stand, their stones weathered by time, but still holding their shape, still pointing toward the stars. They are not just tombs, they are monuments to a knowledge that transcends the rulers buried beneath them. The pyramids are symbols, not just of power, but of memory. They are aligned with the heavens, with the cycles of time, and with the rhythms of the earth. They still speak because they point to something beyond themselves. Stonehenge, a circle of standing stones in the English countryside, continues to whisper its secrets, though we don't fully understand its meaning. It is not just an archaeological site. It is a symbol of something older than the cultures that built it. It exists not to tell us what happened, but to remind us of what is, that we are part of something greater than ourselves. And Göbekli Tepe, with its massive stone pillars, some of which weigh as much as 20 tons, continues to puzzle archaeologists. This ancient site, thought to be over 11,000 years old, was built with such precision and alignment that it suggests a deep understanding of the stars, of geometry, and of ritual. And yet, it was deliberately buried, perhaps to preserve its meaning for future generations. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just speak of the past, it speaks of intentionality, of a message placed in stone to endure beyond time. These monuments survived because they were built to endure, not just as physical structures, but as symbols. They were not made to be consumed by time, but to transcend it. And the knowledge they carry is encoded in form, in alignment, and in geometry. Things that don't fade, things that can't be lost. What if we, too, could leave behind something that doesn't decay? What if we could build memory that transcends language, culture, and time? We live in an age of unprecedented information, but we also live in an age of distraction. We've forgotten how to build with permanence, how to create things that last. We've become obsessed with data that can be deleted, with ideas that can be replaced, with knowledge that can be copied. But what if the real challenge isn't survival? What if the greatest challenge of all is being remembered? We can choose to leave behind not waste, not noise, but wisdom. We can build not just for ourselves, but for those who will come after us. We can create structures, both physical and symbolic, that endure, that carry meaning, that speak beyond their time. We can leave behind stories that last, not because they are written, but because they are felt. And it doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be on the scale of pyramids or standing stones. It can be a symbol, a ritual, a pattern that transcends language. What if we began building in symbols, in alignments, in art that speaks to the soul rather than to the mind? What if we began building memory into the very fabric of our existence? This is not just about preserving information. It is about ensuring that our wisdom, our understanding, and our connection to the earth remain intact. It is about building a legacy that speaks beyond the fragile constructs of civilization. Because one thing is certain: if we want to be remembered, we must begin building differently. We must begin building in ways that transcend time and culture, that will be understood by those who come after us, whether they speak our language or not, whether they live in our cities or not. We are part of a much larger story, a story that stretches back to the dawn of humanity and forward into the unknown future. And as we move forward, we must ask ourselves, what will we leave behind? The final question isn't whether we will survive. It's whether we will be remembered. The whispers of the past are never truly silent. They hum beneath the surface of modernity, echoing in the forgotten corners of our lives, waiting for the right moment to be heard again. And now, something is stirring, an awakening, if you will, of ideas long buried. Forgotten knowledge is starting to surface, creeping back into our collective consciousness. Across the world, interest in lost civilizations is exploding. People are looking not just to the past, but beneath it, beneath the sand, beneath the sea, beneath the surface of what we think we know. New discoveries are shaking the very foundation of what we believed about our history. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the oldest known temple complex, has forced us to rethink the very origins of civilization. Siberian megaliths, found deep in the heart of the Eurasian steppe, challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient peoples. And sunken cities, like those off the coast of India and the Bahamas, are emerging from the depths of the ocean, suggesting that the Earth has seen far more than we've been taught. These discoveries aren't just academic curiosities. They are catalysts for a much larger shift in the way we see the world. We are no longer looking at these ancient structures as isolated oddities. We are looking at them as part of a larger story, a narrative that is being written in real time. The past is not some distant land we visit in books and museums. The past is coming back, and it's forcing us to question everything we've been told. But here's the twist. The more we start to remember, the more resistance arises. As ancient knowledge rises from the shadows, there are those who seek to bury it again. Those who prefer the comfort of certainty over the discomfort of truth. Information is being suppressed, not just by governments, but by algorithms, by noise, by distractions. There is a concerted effort to drown out the signals of ancient memory that are trying to reach us. Think about it. Why does the mainstream media rarely cover these discoveries? Why are alternative histories treated with such disdain? Why do academic institutions so often dismiss new findings out of hand? The truth is, the more we begin to remember, the more the system fights back. It doesn't want us to rediscover the buried knowledge of the past. It doesn't want us to reconnect with what we once knew, because in that knowledge lies power. The power to change the way we live, the way we see ourselves, and the way we see the world. But despite the resistance, the tide is turning. The veil is thinning. We are entering an age of reawakening, and the more we uncover, the more we realize we are part of the story. We are not just passive observers. We are active participants in the remembering, and that brings with it a certain urgency. What if ancient memory is rising again, and the modern world is trying to bury it once more? This isn't just about the past. It's about now. It's about us, standing at the crossroads of history, deciding what to do with the knowledge that is being returned to us. We are not simply uncovering ruins and artifacts. We are uncovering our own past, our own collective memory. And what we do with this knowledge will determine not just our future, but the future of all who come after us. If the veil is thinning, we must ask, what is trying to come through? What knowledge is waiting for us to rediscover? And what role do we have in receiving it? Are we ready to listen? This is the moment of awakening. The question now is, how will we respond? Memory is not static. It is a thread, winding its way through time, connecting the past to the present to the future. And just as a thread connects the fabric of a garment, it connects the fabric of our collective human experience. Memory isn't something that resides only in books or monuments. It isn't something we can simply study. Memory is a living inheritance passed down through generations, not just through words, but through actions, through symbols, through rituals, and through stories. This section is not about facts. It is not about discovering something new or uncovering the final answer. It is about reconnection, the conscious act of seeing memory not as an intellectual pursuit, but as a deep, embodied process. The narrative invites the viewer to understand that the task at hand is not just to remember, but to reclaim the thread of humanity's history. Every question asked, every symbol explored, every silence felt, is part of this process of remembering. It is an unfolding, not a conclusion. We are not simply rediscovering ancient knowledge. We are remembering who we are. What if the forgotten civilization, the one we seek, isn't out there, buried beneath layers of earth or lost to the tides of time? What if the forgotten civilization is us? When we look at the remnants of the past, we are not simply looking at ruins. We are looking at ourselves. The ancient knowledge, the rituals, the symbols, the technologies, they were not separate from the people who lived them. They were an extension of their lives. And so, in rediscovering them, we are rediscovering our own capacity to understand, to create, and to connect. This is not just intellectual work. It is spiritual and emotional. The act of reclaiming memory is not simply a matter of facts and dates. It is a matter of feeling. It is about embodying the knowledge of the past, letting it resonate with us, and allowing it to shape the way we live today. For centuries, we have been taught to forget. We have been taught to rely on what is new, what is modern, and to discard the old as primitive, irrelevant, or superstitious. But in that forgetting, we lost something. We lost the wisdom of the ancients, their understanding of the cycles of the earth, their respect for the natural world, their connection to the stars. And now, as we begin to remember, we have the opportunity to reconnect with something much older than ourselves. The question now is not whether we can remember, but how we will choose to remember. What will we carry forward, and what will we leave behind? The memory of humanity is not something to be preserved in a static form. It is something to be lived. It is something to be passed down, not just through words, but through experience. This is a call not just to the intellect, but to the spirit. It is a quiet call to remember, not just intellectually, but spiritually, emotionally, and somatically. Because in the end, memory is not just a mental process. It is a living, breathing force that runs through our bodies, our hearts, and our souls. And the task before us is not simply to understand the past. It is to live it, to carry it forward into the future, to weave it into the fabric of our modern world. As we reconnect with the thread of memory, we also begin to see that the task of healing planetary amnesia, the collective forgetting we've experienced, is perhaps the task of our time. We are not just remembering the past, we are remembering who we are. And when we remember who we are better able to navigate the future. So, as we move forward, we ask, what will we do with the knowledge we've reclaimed? Will we let it pass through our fingers, or will we make it our guiding light? The journey of remembering is not about arriving at an answer, but about continuing the story. Continuity, not conclusion. And with that, we arrive at the final chapter. Not with answers, but with an offering. The invitation to continue the journey, to become living links in the story of humanity's remembering. The final chapter is not an end, it is a beginning. What would humanity look like if it remembered what it is? In the quiet moments when we step outside of the relentless pace of modern life, we catch glimpses of what it might mean to remember, to truly remember. Not just the past, but our place in the larger, ever-shifting narrative of life on Earth. What kind of civilization could we become if we carried the memory of who we were and who we are woven into the very fabric of our existence? We live in a world built on forgetting, war, greed, noise, fragmentation. These are the legacies of the civilizations that forgot the patterns, the cycles, the lessons that the Earth, through fire, flood, and silence, has been trying to teach us. In our blind rush forward, we've forgotten the simple truths that once grounded us, that we are part of the Earth, not separate from it, that our actions ripple across time, affecting not just us, but the generations to come. But imagine if we remembered. What if, instead of fighting for dominance, we fought for harmony? What if, instead of accumulating wealth, we focused on accumulating wisdom? What if we measured our success not by how much we consume, but by how much we give back to the world that has given us everything? This is the world that could emerge if we remembered. A world where knowledge is not lost to destruction, but passed down through generations like a living thread. A world where we don't measure progress by how much we build, but by how much we preserve. A world where we listen to the earth again, where we tune in to the subtle rhythms of the land, the sky, and the waters. The earth has shown us time and time again that it is resilient. It has survived the cataclysms, the impacts, The floods, the ice ages. It has adapted, reborn, renewed. And as we look to the future, we must ask, what role will humanity play in that renewal? Will we become a part of the Earth's enduring legacy? Or will we be a forgotten chapter, lost to the patterns we chose to ignore? But the next evolution of humanity may not be technological. It may be mythic. In a world where machines and gadgets dominate every corner of life, it is easy to forget that there are other forms of evolution, forms that are not based on innovation, but on wisdom, the evolution of the human soul, of consciousness, of connection. In this moment of remembering, we are not asked to change the world overnight. We are not asked to undo the damage, but we are asked to carry memory through it, to slow down, to walk softer, to notice the patterns that have always been here, woven into the fabric of life itself, to remember the stars, to remember that we are not the first to live on this earth, and we will not be the last. And in that remembering, we can find peace. The world is changing. The veil between the past and the present is thinning, and we are the ones who are being asked to bridge that gap. We are the ones who can choose to remember what has been forgotten. And in that remembrance, we can build something new. Not a world of noise and consumption, but a world of harmony and as legacy. A world built not on what we own, but on what we pass down. What would humanity look like if it remembered? It would look like ourselves. Not the version of ourselves defined by consumerism, competition, and distraction, but the version of ourselves defined by connection, by reverence, by wisdom. It would look like home. And so, as we move forward, we are not asked to change the world in a dramatic way. We are asked to change the way we see it, to carry the memory of the earth, of the stars, of the cycles, as a quiet, humble guide through this world. To take each step with intention, to notice the small things, and to honor the quiet, sacred moments of remembrance. This is the closing arc, not of a story, but of a way of being. And now, as the story nears its end, we turn inward, not toward answers, but toward continuity. Imagine for a moment that someone finds this story, someone from a far future, when the world we know has long passed into the quiet shadow of time. Perhaps we have vanished. Perhaps the earth has changed again. Perhaps the cities, the technologies, the noise of our time have all disappeared, leaving only whispers in the wind. And in that silence, they find this message, this story, this memory. And they will know then that we were here. We remembered, and we tried. This is not a warning. It is a gift. The story you are listening to, the one you have followed through centuries, through generations, through the ebb and flow of knowledge. It is a monument not to facts, but to meaning. This documentary, this story of lost civilizations, forgotten memories, and reawakening. It is not a record of the past. It is a record of us, living in this moment, trying to remember, trying to reconnect with the wisdom that has always been here, waiting for us to return. And perhaps, in the future, someone will find this story and understand that it was not just about uncovering the past. It was about uncovering ourselves, about remembering the ancient thread that runs through all of humanity, binding us to the earth, to the stars, to each other. And in that remembrance, we are not alone. We are part of something larger, something eternal. This story is not about solving mysteries or uncovering hidden truths. It is about passing on a gift of memory, a gift that will live on long after we are gone, carried by the wind, by the stones, by the stars. A gift that will continue to echo across time for those who are ready to listen. If you have found this story, it means something has survived. It means that memory has not been lost. It means that we, too, were part of the great cycle of remembering, passing on the knowledge that we carry. And in that quiet, gentle light, we know that we are not alone. We are connected to something far greater than ourselves. And this story, this moment, becomes part of the thread that will continue to weave through time, through generations, through the lives of those yet to come. So, we leave you with a whisper across time, a message for the future. We were here, we remembered, and we tried. And in that effort, we leave behind not just facts, but meaning. Not just knowledge, but legacy. If you want more calm journeys into space, time, and the hidden edges of reality, subscribe to The Calm Unknown.